Copy Demon The Kushtaka. Help! My mother screamed. I can't swim. A chill ran down my spine. I glanced at my father and whispered, It's here. I gripped my hunting rifle tightly, trying to steady my trembling hands. The cold metal was grounding, but I could still feel the shakes. My father lifted his chin and shouted, We're coming, Mildred. When the wind finally carried away the last remnants of his voice, he turned to me and whispered, Be careful, we're close now. Snow crunched under our boots as we moved. We had been out on the ice for the better part of 3 hours, but the end of the hunt was near. Don't believe a word it says, my father murmured for the 100th time. The Kushtaka is a liar. It'll say anything it can, especially when it sees our guns. Remember the Smiths. A shiver ran through me under my caribou parka. Angel and Dusk Smith, brother and sister, had been officially missing for 2 weeks, according to the Anchorage police. But to the old Alaskan families, everyone knew the truth. The Kushtaka had claimed them. For better or worse, the Smiths, parents from Dallas working in petroleum, had bought into the old legend. After the funeral for their children, they traveled from Anchorage to my village, Bediana, and offered a generous sum of money, 6 figures. My father had grunted when I asked. My father, the only man who had ever faced the Kushtaka and lived, took their offer. A sharp scream broke the stillness. Henry, Shannon, hurry, I'm drowning. My heart leapt into my throat. Every warning from my father faded into the background. Without thinking, I shouted, Mom! I took 3 quick steps toward the ice before a hand grabbed the hood of my coat and yanked me back. My father spun me around and studied me with his one good eye. If I wasn't here, you'd be dead right now, he whispered. I shook myself clear of the panic. My face flushed despite the cold. He was right. Sorry, sir. It'll say anything, he repeated, his voice low. You have to stay sharp. Stay behind me. If it calls again, focus on my voice. It'll help you keep your head together. Yes, sir? Is that you, Shannon? Water splashed in rhythmic bursts against the ice, the sound of it treading water. Oh, thank the Lord. Help me, Shannon. Help me, Henry. I'm drowning. A cold shiver ran through me. Even now, with my father's warnings about not listening, about not believing, I wanted to. I wanted to trust what my ears and mind were telling me. I wanted to run to the edge of the ice where the water kissed the sky to save my mother. Help, Dad. The voice now, amidst the frantic splashing, belonged to my sister, Rachel. But it wasn't really Rachel in the water, just as it wasn't really my mom. They were safe at home. I had said goodbye to both of them less than an hour ago. If the Kushtaka knew that, it didn't care. I'm fine, I murmured. A lie, of course, but my father always said that a little fear kept a man sharp. If I were honest, I was on the edge of panic. I glanced back. Anchorage had already disappeared in the distance, shrinking rapidly. We're far out now. Keep your focus, he said sharply. You wouldn't look away if we were on the trail of a polar bear, and the Kushtaka is a lot worse than any mama bear. It'll eat you up twice as fast. Be cautious. Be ready. How much farther? Not far, he said. It's close. It always sounds close. It sounded close since we set foot on the ice. Quiet now. Trust me, it's not throwing its voice anymore. Get ready. The ice under my boots groaned and cracked. Shannon! My mother's voice called again. Dad! Rachel echoed. Water splashed in chaos from behind a shelf of ice about 20 yards away. There, my father whispered, raising a gloved hand to point out the location. He raised his rifle, then looked back to make sure I was following suit. My barrel wavered more than his, but I aimed it toward the same spot. He whispered something so soft that this time I couldn't catch a word. It was brief, just a few words, but they were swept away the wind and carried to the creature behind the ice. Henry, it's really me. The thing that wasn't my mother called out. It's us. We came out on the ice after you to help, but we slipped and fell into the ocean. Hurry! We slipped. Rachel's voice came next, her words choked by salt water. No, not Rachel. Rachel was at home. Rachel is at home. Mom is at home. Rachel is at home. Mom is at home. I focused on my father. I centered myself on the sound of his breathing, on the way he moved across the slick ice without letting his rifle stray even an inch. By keeping my father in my thoughts, I could better remember him standing with me at the front door, with my mother and sister waving us goodbye, wishing us good luck. Mom, with reluctant tears in her eyes, and Rachel, unaware that this wasn't just another hunt, because our parents had decided it was better she didn't know that part. He didn't shout out my mother's or sister's names. I think if he had, I might have gotten to him in time. But as he always did, my father held his tongue. He couldn't speak his heart, even when it betrayed him. The sound that brought me back to reality was the sharp clatter of his hunting rifle as he tossed it onto the ice. His only means of defense slid across the frozen sheet, over the edge where thick ice met dark, violent waves and disappeared into the water. In an instant, it was gone. Perhaps the Kushtaka had planted the idea in my father's mind that he could save my mother and Rachel from the freezing water if he gave them each one of his arms. So consumed with worry for me, the Kushtaka had slipped past his mental defenses. Dad! He didn't hear me, or if he did, he gave no sign of it. I ran after him, knowing I'd never catch him before he reached the water. That's when I saw the creature that had claimed the Smiths. The Kushtaka's black eyes were the first to appear. Thick, wet clumps of brown fur framed a leather-like face. It reminded me of the proto-humans from old movies, a creature stuck somewhere between caveman and modern man, except with the snout and razor-sharp teeth of an otter. I raised my trembling rifle. The Kushtaka's eyes flickered toward me, briefly sizing me up. It deemed me unthreatening and turned its attention back to my father. Its pink mouth parted, revealing rows of teeth that extended all the way to the back of its throat. When it spoke, its voice sounded like my mother's. Shannon! The Kushtaka tread water just beneath the surface, holding on to the edge of the ice with its claws hidden from view, keeping itself in place in a way that made it impossible for me to see them. Hurry! Take my hand, my mother called, and the Kushtaka lifted a dripping claw from the freezing water, offering it to my father. Dad! Alaska, especially my home village of Bitiana, is hunting country. Every man, woman, and child hunts, fishes, and wears too much camouflage. I learned to skin a goat and start a fire before my 7th birthday, and I was hunting with a rifle by my 10th. Yet, as I raised my rifle to save my father's life, I had never felt less confident. He can't see it, I realized. The monster is right there, and he only sees Mom or Rachel, maybe both. My teeth chattered. The rifle's barrel trembled in the wind like a frightened mosquito. I swallowed, but the heavy stone lodged in my throat wouldn't go down. The Kushtaka smiled, its long black tongue flickering through the air. Give me your hand, it called in Rachel's voice. The two were mere inches apart when I squeezed the trigger. I held my breath, trying to steady the rifle's barrel over the Kushtaka's exposed throat. I screamed and pulled the trigger just as the beast's claws ripped through my father's coat. I saw the terror and pain flash in his eyes. The rifle clicked but didn't fire. The sound of the gun seemed to break the spell on my father. He yanked his hand back in disgust, crying out. His coat tore beneath yellow claws, blood splattering across the ice, but he managed to pull away, scrambling to retreat from the demon. The Kushtaka barked, and as my father slipped on the slick ice, the creature hauled itself from the water in one fluid, practiced motion. It dropped to all fours, and I saw that each leg ended in a human-like hand with 6 fingers and claws instead of nails. My father scrambled back as fast as he could with one hand, while the other worked desperately to unhook the ice pick from his belt. Henry, run, he shouted. The Kushtaka crossed the distance between them in a single powerful leap and sank its teeth into his shoulder. Then, with horrifying strength, the creature began to drag my father back toward the water from which it had come. He screamed, swinging the ice pick between the Kushtaka's neck and shoulder. Its black blood sprayed across the ice like oil. He ripped the weapon free, swung it back, and buried the blade into the beast again and again. Twice, 3 times, 4. Despite the heavy damage my father inflicted, the creature showed no sign of stopping, even when the pick lodged into its forehead. Dad! My father jerked the axe free and swung down once more. A fresh spray of dark blood erupted from the Kushtaka, followed by a deep growl. But despite the brutal blows, the creature had managed to drag my father all the way to the edge of the dark, lapping ocean. I sprinted towards them, uncertain of how or whether I could help, but knowing I had no choice but to try. I wanted to swing my rifle at it, but the Kushtaka was too fast. With one swift flick of its neck, the creature threw my father into the Pacific. The waves greedily licked at him, and as the ocean roared and churned, the Kushtaka dove in after him, cutting off his desperate gasps for air. It dragged him beneath the waves. No, Dad! When I reached the water's edge, the water churned in deeper shades of navy, where it mixed with the Kushtaka's blood. Dad! He was gone. But the Kushtaka was wounded, perhaps mortally. My father had buried the ice pick into the creature at least 5 times and was ready for another strike when it pulled him under. Maybe? Dad! I squinted, trying to make out any sign of movement behind the waves. Once or twice, I thought I saw a gloved finger break the surface, but there was nothing. Soon, the rippling water settled back into its rhythmic, calm state. I let out a howl of anguish to the ocean. A tremendous splash in the distance signaled some Alaskan beast breaking the surface. It took in a deep breath and slammed its bulk against the ice somewhere out of my sight. I rushed towards the noise, ready to beat the Kushtaka to death with my rifle or take another shot, but I halted when I heard coughing in the air. Then a voice I knew well. Henry! Impossible, but there was no mistaking it. Somehow, impossibly. Henry! Can you hear me? Are you up there? Dad? Henry, help me, for Christ's sake. The water's freezing. I ran towards him. It was a miracle he hadn't succumbed to hypothermia already, but if I could pull him out now, we might make it back to Anchorage before he froze to death. I had to get him out of there before the Kushtaka resurfaced. He probably hadn't killed it, but I stopped. Oh God. Henry, is everything all right? No, I said, standing still, unable to move. There was a pause while my father, or whoever it was, considered my hesitation. God damn it, he might have coughed, but the wind distorted his words. That sound could have also been a growl, like some animal in the distance. When my father's voice rose above the ice and wind again, I could tell he, or it was struggling to keep his voice steady. Go back home, son. Go home to your mother. I'm done for. Serves me right for getting fooled. Go on home. No, I won't leave you out here. I just need to figure out how to be sure. Go home, he said. I love you. It's all right. I can't leave you to die. You have to. A splash from the water, just beyond my sight. It could have been my father trying to reassert his grip on an ice ledge, or the Kushtaka baiting me forward just as it had baited him moments ago. I could easily picture the beast there, waiting just out of reach, its black eyes gleaming above its awful glittering smile. Go home. My father wasn't quite whispering, but his voice had lost most of its volume and all of its edge. Tell me something only you would know, I called out. You know there is nothing I could say. He was right. The Kushtaka could mimic voices and understand hearts and minds. Anything my father might want to tell me, the Kushtaka could copy. If I knew it, it knew it. What then? I shouted. What can I do? You can go home. I took another step closer. By then, my shivering was violent. I could feel the ice biting at my skin, pulling the warmth from me. If only Mom were here, I tried, or Rachel. They would know what to do. If it was the Kushtaka down there, it didn't fall for my trick. Go, Henry, my father said after a pause. I'm done for. Can you try to get your hand above the ice? I asked. Anything that will help me. It wouldn't do you any good, he replied. If I was the Kushtaka, I could make you see the hand, even if it was really a claw. Besides, this hole is too deep. The tips of my fingers couldn't even reach the top of the... He screamed. Loud, sharp, frantic splashing followed, then more shouting. Dad? Silence. Dad? There's something in the water, he answered through clenched teeth. A fish, I think it took my toes, most of my foot. More splashing. He screamed again, louder than before. Dad! I took another reluctant step forward. It tortured me to hear him like that, but I knew the Kushtaka would know just how to manipulate me, just what strings to pull to make me move. The water churned as if it were boiling. Go home, Henry, he shouted over the noise. I took another step closer to the edge. I could see that my father had spoken the truth in at least one way. The crater was deep. The ice dropped straight down several feet ahead into a hole so deep that I couldn't tell if man or beast waited below. If I see the fish, I'll believe, I said. I'll come closer to the edge, close enough to see the water and how deep the hole is. If I see the fish, I'll know you're telling the truth, and I'll save you. We can still make it. I suddenly realized I had stopped shivering at some point over the past few minutes. Hypothermia was already setting in. Dad, I'm coming to the lip. No, he croaked, but his denial came too late. I had already made up my mind. I took a quick glance over the edge, saw my father, then stepped back. If there was no illusion or hypnosis at play, my father was lying 6 feet below, dying. At the bottom of the frozen tunnel, the ice formed a small crescent shelf that my father had hoisted himself onto. His pale skin nearly blended with the ice, and whether he lived or died, he was going to lose what remained of his legs to frostbite. The fish had taken so much of him. The coarse wave caps were stained pink with his blood. Dad, don't. Look. I already saw. There was a pause. You know it's me? He asked. For the first time since he had emerged from the black water, I heard a thin layer of hope in his voice. I spent a long time thinking about how to answer, too long considering the circumstances, but eventually I gave him the truth. I don't know, I said, but I'm going to help you. I think it's you, and that's enough. Henry, I'm going to throw a rope down. Do you think you can hook yourself onto it? Both of our coats had metal links for situations like this one, if climbing or being pulled was necessary. If my father could manage to clip his hooks and clamps onto my rope, I could pull him to safety. Or at least, I could try. The feeling had drained from my fingers, and even without the ocean's weight in his clothes, my father was a heavy man, but I was determined. Dad, can you manage? Yes, came the weak reply. I threw one end of my rope over the edge, then stood still, listening for the sound of jingling metal while gripping the rope with one hand and my rifle with the other. The Kushtaka could mimic human voices, but none of the old stories had ever suggested it could imitate the clinking of cold metal. I yelled, "Click the clasps together as loud as you can." There was a pause. They're gone. Coat's gone. My heart sank. The clattering sound of ice shards being blown across the frozen ground seemed like the Arctic itself was applauding the creature's sly trick, if it was a trick at all, or laughing at my expense. How can that be? Why didn't you say something earlier? The Kushtaka must have torn it off, he replied. I didn't even realize. It cut me up pretty good. Why didn't you say that before? I asked. Where did it cut you? I didn't see any blood. The longest pause yet. Dad? No reply. Dad? A faint splash echoed from the bottom of the pit. I dropped the rope and pulled my rifle tight against my shoulder. My father had always taught me to aim with both eyes open, but I couldn't shake the habit of closing one as I lined up the sight. I'm going to lose him, I thought. Maybe I've already lost him, and when I try to run away, that thing will have my guts for dinner. From where I stood on the ice, too far from anchorage to even hope someone would hear me shout, The day had shifted from light gray to a deepening black. We had less than an hour before nightfall. I stared down the trembling barrel of my rifle. Dad, if you're there, you better say something. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, so loud that I wasn't sure I'd hear him if he finally replied. I started to march once more toward the edge of the ice. The snow crackled beneath my boots like a firework about to explode. Dad, don't move, I'm coming. There was no answer. Don't move, I heard myself repeat. I peered slowly over the edge, sliding my boots carefully over the ice to avoid losing my footing and falling into the black waves below. The wind howled. The sharp scent of salt water drifted up from the place where my father might close his eyes forever. There were 2 bleeding bodies on the ice shelf now. Both of them were my father. One of them turned its head toward me, its eyes shut tight in excruciating pain. Go home, it croaked. Go home, the other echoed. I'm done for. Save yourself. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the 2 of them, one my father, the other an imposter, but I couldn't begin to guess who was who. They looked more alike than twins, exact replicas of each other. Even the details I had never noticed, the way his hair parted, the wrinkles on his hands, the way his upper lip curled in pain, everything was a match. Dad? Even the puddles of frozen burgundy collecting beside them were the same size. Both pairs of legs floated along the tumbling surface of the dark water, and both of them had lost their boots to the still unseen man-eating fish. Kill it! I shouted. Kill it quick! Can't move, one groaned. I'll slide into the water, said the other in equal agony. If I move, I'm dead. Leave me quick. My mind raced. My father, the real one, was in no condition to kill the Kushtaka, but it seemed the monster wasn't in any shape to finish my father off either. He must have injured it during their first battle. Or, I realized, perhaps the demon was feigning injury, hoping I would either come down to rescue one of them or abandon the other. Go home, one of my fathers rasped. The sun was halfway behind the horizon now. I was no longer worried about mild frostbite or a few fingers and toes. If I fled across the black Alaskan night, whether carrying my father or not, I wouldn't see the hole in the ice that would swallow me whole. A sharp sob tore from my throat. I hadn't even realized the tears were building at the corners of my eyes, but now they flowed freely, freezing into tiny flecks of cold glass as they traveled from my chin, dripping onto the ice. Where is the fish? I asked. No idea, said one father. The Kushtaka pulled it under the waves, said the other. Then it came up here and laid down to trick you. A harsh cough followed then. I don't look so good, do I? You have to kill me, the first father said. A spray of blood shot from its mouth and splattered onto the ice. Kill both of us. I'm dead anyway. Put a bullet in both of our skulls and take the Kushtaka's head back to the smiths for the reward. Don't shoot, said the other. The Kushtaka heard your gun fail the first time. If you fail again, it'll come after you. Right now, it thinks you had a bad bullet. Hell, that's what I think too, but don't give it the chance to find out you have a bad gun. I asked, isn't it dying? No, the same body croaked. I didn't hurt it all that bad to begin with, and I sure didn't land any more blows underwater. Don't shoot. I almost killed you, you son of a bitch, the one that wanted me to shoot snarled. Now my son's gonna finish the job. Shoot it, Henry. I'm not sure. I need to think about. There's no time. Shoot. Don't shoot, run. I don't know what to do, I howled. Run, said one. The thing's head ain't worth risking your life over. It's beaten me. Don't let it have you too. Kill the fucking thing, the other roared, then broke into a violent coughing fit. Red blood, real blood, not black, splattered across the ice. The night wind hummed, coaxing me to stay on the ice just a little longer, just until the sun dipped below the horizon. After that, I'd be stranded. I realized I had to squint through the dying light to see them. The time to decide had come. I'm going too. I stopped. I'm sorry, Henry, said one of my fathers. I could barely make out which one was speaking through the darkness. You shouldn't be in this situation, but you are, and for my part, I'm sorry. The only thing I care about now is your safety. Don't shoot. Run. Kill that goddamn imposter, my other father sputtered. Kill it. You have to, or those Smith kids will have died for nothing. I'll have died for nothing, and the monster will take other victims. This is no task for a father to ask of a son, but put a bullet in both of us. I'm going to shoot, I whispered. Do it. No. Save yourself. The ocean lapped hungrily at their legs. I wondered if my father, the real one, was even aware of the creeping tide. I'm not going back empty-handed, I said. It's not the safest choice, and it's not the one I would make if my only concern was getting out alive. I shook the tears from my eyes and continued, ignoring one father's protests and the sputtering encouragement from the other. I'm going to kill it. I'll kill it, then I'll cut its head off and take it back to Betiana. I'll take care of the family when you're gone. But your gun, what if it misfires again? One asked. What if it always misfires? It'll come for you. It's trying to save itself, said the other. Shoot it. Don't worry about me. Shoot me first if you must, but kill it. Kill the Kushtaka. I'm going to risk it, I said. Truth is, I'm a lot more afraid of putting a bullet in the real you than I am that the gun won't fire. I lowered the barrel on one of my fathers. The rifle trembled with my anxiety, but I held firm. One of them looked up at me with vague curiosity. The other had turned away, maybe even fallen asleep. He looked so peaceful, and after finally conceding that I had no idea which was which, I fixed the weapon on the sleeper first. Get ready, said the awake one. If the weapon misfires, you'd better run. I took a deep breath and squeezed the trigger. The rifle did not misfire. There was no scream. The muzzle flash lit the surrounding darkness, illuminating it as if lightning had struck my father instead of the bullet. The rifle kicked back so violently I nearly lost it, but I managed to hold on. The sleeping father jerked when the bullet hit him. I heard a bone snap, one of his vertebrae. The black water churned eagerly as the body, now free from its hold, slid into the ocean's grasp. Then, darkness rushed back into the hole. The distant lights of Anchorage glowed faintly at the water's edge, white and yellow, like a constellation offering a safe haven. But the city's glow wasn't strong enough to reveal the lone figure lurking at the bottom of the pit. Dad? Waves crashed against the ice. My father didn't answer, but the Kushtaka neither growled nor pulled me to my death. I took a step away from the edge. Dad? A faint whisper floated up from the dark. You chose right, Henry. You'll have to be quick about it, though. The body is floating on the surface. Get down here and take its head. I aimed the rifle into the blackness, tears silently streaming down my face. Can you pull it to the edge? I asked. I don't know, I'll try, but... His words were cut off by the roar of my rifle. I made it back to Anchorage by sheer luck. The next morning, I saw that the ice had been broken in 1,000 places, and I had been spared from slipping into the dark water by nothing short of a miracle. It took me an hour, but eventually I reached the pit where I had killed my father. The pit was empty when I arrived, and I cannot sleep for wondering what that might mean.